Of Arirang News, I'm Mark Broom. Let's start with a look at the day's headlines. Having the final word, South Korean President Moon Jae-in says American troops stationed in the country are here to stay, regardless of any peace treaty that's agreed with North Korea down the line. As expected, the US Federal Reserve decides to hold interest rates steady as inflation finally approaches the Fed's 2% target. Plus, Cambridge Analytica is closing its doors for good. The British firm with ties to Donald Trump's 2016 presidential campaign says the Facebook data scandal scared away customers. So let's start with President Moon Jae-in's comments on US forces in South Korea. The president has flatly dismissed the possibility of American troops withdrawing from the peninsula when the Korean War formally ends, making his stance crystal clear after one of his advisors muddied the waters. President Moon said US soldiers will continue to protect the peninsula even if a peace treaty is signed with Pyongyang. Our chief Cheongwade correspondent Min Kim Donghyun starts us off.
The U.S. troops stationed in South Korea will remain in the country even if a deal is reached to formally end the 1950-53 Korean War. That's the South Korean government's official stance.
Let me quote President Moon. The issue of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea is a matter of South Korea-U.S. alliance. It has nothing to do with signing any peace treaties.
The presidential Blue House was responding to questions about an op-ed piece written by the South Korean president's special advisor and academic Moon Jung-in. In an article published in the Monday edition of the U.S. magazine Foreign Affairs, the former Yonsei University professor argued that it would be difficult to justify the presence of the U.S. forces in South Korea if a peace treaty was signed to put an end to the Korean conflict, as agreed at the historic Inter-Korean summit last week. Washington stations 28,500 troops in South Korea as a legacy of the conflict, which ended in an armistice, not a peace treaty. While North Korea has been vocally opposed to the U.S. troops in the past, there was no explicit mention of them in the Panmunjom declaration reached at the end of the summit between President Moon and Chairman Kim on April 27th. The Blue House spokesperson added that Special Advisor Moon Jung-in has received a special phone call from the top office and was asked not to create any confusion about the president's stance on this matter. The South Korean president's swift disaster control and clarification of his stance is seen as his efforts to rid any roadblocks or possible conflicts between South Korea and the U.S., especially ahead of the highly anticipated North Korea-U.S. summit in this excruciatingly delicate dance towards Korean peace that may have just begun. As part of that effort, President Moon will hold a rare meeting with the chiefs of the nation's 5 constitutional institutions on Thursday to personally explain the outcome of last week's Inter-Korean summit. Min Kim Donghyun, Arirang News, the Blue House.
Now we're going to move on to the upcoming Inter-Korean military general-level talks. And South Korea has tapped Presidential Secretary for National Defense Reform Kim Donghyun as its top delegate. According to a government official on this Thursday, Kim was picked for his thorough understanding of the direction of the Moon administration's North Korean policies, as well as his expertise in North Korean affairs. Kim took part in working-level talks with Pyongyang at Panmunjom in 2011. He was also among Seoul's delegates to the high-level Inter-Korean meeting in 2014. Kim's new title will be the Director General for North Korean Policy at the Ministry of National Defense. The South Korean government is discussing how to finance possible economic projects with North Korea, following the Panmunjom Declaration announced at last week's Inter-Korean summit. Finance Minister Kim Donghyun says Inter-Korean economic cooperation will create huge synergy. He added that Seoul is internally carrying out preparations on how to cooperate with the international community and how to pay for joint projects. But given the international sanctions on the North, Kim said such cooperation would require global consensus and depends on how the upcoming North Korea-US summit pans out. China's foreign minister is in Pyongyang, the first visit by a Chinese foreign minister to North Korea in 11 years. This comes after the historic Inter-Korean summit last week, expected to kickstart the process of ending the armistice and moving hopefully towards permanent peace here on the Korean Peninsula. We have our Jung Yi on the line with us on this story. So Jung Yi, fill us in.
Good morning, Mark. Pyongyang state media reported that North Korean Foreign Minister Lee Myung-bak sat down with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi on Wednesday to discuss the current issues on the Korean Peninsula. More specifically, they shared how to improve and strengthen Pyongyang-Beijing relations following their leaders' decision to meet in the near future. On the North Korean side, the minister in charge of the economy accompanied the foreign minister, suggesting that bilateral economic cooperation could have been on the table as well. This is the first visit to Pyongyang by a Chinese foreign minister in 11 years, as you've said, raising speculation that China may be concerned about being possibly left out in the discussions to formally end the Korean War with a peace treaty. Last Friday's Panmunjom declaration between the leaders of Seoul and Pyongyang stipulates that ensuring peace on the Korean Peninsula could be discussed trilaterally with the U.S. or in four-way talks with the U.S. and China, leaving open the possibility of excluding China. Mark.
Well, thank you very much, Jung Yi, for that report. We appreciate it. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is vowing to seek the immediate dismantlement of North Korea's nuclear program. He made the remarks as he was formally sworn in as America's top diplomat with a strong endorsement from President Trump. Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has stressed that North Korea must commit to a swift dismantling of its weapons programs. Pompeo outlined his priorities while speaking at his ceremonial swearing-in on Wednesday, highlighting the importance of Pyongyang abandoning its nuclear weapons as well as its ballistic missiles.
We are committed to the permanent, verifiable, irreversible dismantling of North Korea's weapons of mass destruction program, and to do so without delay.
Pompeo, who secretly met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang in early April, also said that efforts to denuclearize North Korea are still in the beginning stages, with their outcome yet unknown. He also stressed that the Trump administration is fully committed to solving the North's nuclear issue.
This administration will not repeat the mistakes of the past. Our eyes are wide open. It's time to solve this once and for all. A bad deal is not an option.
Meanwhile, CBS News reported Wednesday that North Korea has started removing cables from the tunnels at its Punggye-ri nuclear test site, where the regime carried out a total of 6 nuclear tests from 2006. Citing intelligence sources, CBS describes such measures as a first step toward closing down the tunnels, as announced by Kim Jong-un during last week's Inter-Korean summit. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
South Korea rolled out the red carpet on Wednesday for the leader of Turkey, who is here on a state visit, meeting with President Moon Jae-in at the Blue House. Recep Tayyip Erdogan heaped praise on the South Korean leader, saying the recent Inter-Korean summit will make a massive contribution to world peace. Hwang Ho-jun tells us more.
It was a meeting of the leaders of two countries seen as kankaresh, meaning blood brothers in Turkish, and they agreed to boost their bilateral ties even more. After a welcoming ceremony, the two leaders held a summit at the Blue House, highly evaluating their 61 years of bilateral cooperation and their long-standing friendship.
한국과 터키가 형제 국가로서의 역사적 정서적 유대감을 바탕으로 전략적 동반자 관계를 지속적으로 발전시켜오고 있는 것을 매우 기쁘게 생각합니다.
And also the recent summit between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
On behalf of the Turkish people, I want to congratulate you on the success of the Inter-Korean summit. I dare say it will continue to have a massive impact in contributing to world peace.
In modern times, the two countries have come together at crucial times. Turkey contributed the second highest number of allied troops during the Korean War. Seoul also helped Turkey following the 1999 earthquake in Istanbul. During the summit meeting, Presidents Moon and Erdogan agreed to enhance cooperation between Seoul and Ankara on the international stage, such as at the United Nations and through MIKTA, an informal partnership between Mexico, Indonesia, South Korea, Turkey, and Australia. The two leaders also expressed the need to further develop MIKTA into a forum led by the leaders of each respective state. The five-nation forum is currently led by foreign ministers, according to the Blue House. They also discussed ways to boost practical cooperation between the two countries in various sectors, including trade, investment, energy, and the defense industry. The leaders also witnessed the signing of MOUs in sectors including education, ICT, and health and welfare. A state banquet in honor of President Erdogan was held on Wednesday evening with about 90 guests from various circles in attendance. It was a halal dinner prepared in accordance with Islamic principles and technique. This was the first meeting between the leaders of the two countries since they established a strategic partnership in 2012, and of course the first time a foreign head of state visited the country since the historic Inter-Korean summit last week. Hong Woo-jun, Arirang News.
It was a widely expected move, but the US Federal Reserve has left interest rates unchanged. Releasing a statement after its latest policy meeting, the Fed said inflation is finally climbing after years of being stuck below its 2% target level. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Wrapping up a two-day meeting, the Federal Open Market Committee held U.S. interest rates steady on Wednesday, expressing confidence that a recent rise in inflation would be sustained, putting on track to raise borrowing costs in June. The Fed's decision to leave its benchmark overnight lending rate in a target range of between 1.5% and 1.75% was unanimous. The Fed said inflation had moved close to its target, and the price stability part of its dual mandate from Congress had almost reached its 2% target. Experts say the 2% target is symmetric, meaning it would be equally problematic if inflation lingers too far above or below that level. The Fed's comments on the U.S. labor market were also of interest. It downplayed a recent slowdown in economic and job growth, saying the activity had been expanding at a moderate rate and job gains on average had been strong in recent months. Last month, the Bank of Korea left its key interest rate unchanged, deciding to hold the rate at 1.5%. U.S. interest rates are now higher than South Korea's lending rates. Prior to that, they had been on par with each other since December of last year. Back in the U.S., the Federal Reserve currently forecasts 2 more rate hikes this year, while an increasing number of policymakers see 3 as possible. All eyes turn to the Fed's next meeting in June, when rates are set to go up. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, China says it welcomes a large US trade delegation that's set to arrive in Beijing for a 2-day trip starting today. Speaking to reporters on Wednesday, China's foreign ministry said that Washington and Beijing should properly resolve relevant disputes through equal-footed consultation as the world's 2 biggest economies. Let's take a look.
As long as the U.S. is sincere about maintaining the long-term stability of China-U.S. economic and trade ties and comes to the negotiating table with mutual respect and win-win results in mind, then we believe that the bilateral consultation would be constructive.
The US delegation, led by Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin, is set to exchange views with Chinese Vice Premier Liu He on their bilateral trade and economic issues. The trip comes as President Trump hopes to reduce tensions after the two sides came to the brink of a full-blown trade war after their tit-for-tat tariff battle. The trial of yet another disgraced former South Korean president starts this afternoon. Preparatory trial proceedings kick off for Lee Myung-bak over allegations he took bribes from the state-run intelligence agency and local conglomerates. He's also suspected of embezzling money from an auto parts company he's believed to have secretly controlled. Lee's attendance is not mandatory, and given the former leader's refusal to cooperate with the prosecution's request for questioning, it's unlikely he'll show up for the proceedings today. Lee, who was arrested in March, is the country's 4th former leader to face a criminal trial for corruption. His successor, Park Geun-hye, was sentenced to 24 years in prison last month after being found guilty on separate corruption charges. LG Electronics has unveiled its latest flagship smartphone, the G7 ThinQ, featuring enhanced artificial intelligence features and audio functions. The Korean company introduced the latest product in New York on Wednesday, explaining that it's equipped with a 6.1-inch super bright display for a crisper display. It added the new model makes use of the boombox speaker, enabling users to enjoy a clearer and more immersive sound experience. Pre-orders will begin on May 11th, with the official release scheduled for May 18th, adding that an official launching event will be held right here in Korea on Thursday. Now, the British consultancy firm embroiled in the recent Facebook data scandal has announced that it's shutting down. Cambridge Analytica is accused of improperly obtaining the personal data of tens of millions of Facebook users to help its client, Donald Trump, in the 2016 US presidential election. For more on this and other international news, let's turn to our Arirang. Arirang, this big clash over privacy has destroyed this company.
Indeed, Mark. Cambridge Analytica and its parent company, SCL Elections, said Wednesday they are immediately ceasing all operations and have started insolvency proceedings both in the US and the UK. It said the negative media coverage in the wake of the Facebook data scandal left it with no clients and mounting legal fees. Cambridge Analytica continues to deny, however, accusations that it failed to delete the personal data which Facebook knew it had improperly obtained on users 3 years ago, and using that data to target voters in the 2016 US elections. The firm also came under fire after undercover recordings released by the UK's Channel 4 News showed the company's executives bragging about their methods to help Trump win the election, including, quote, sending some girls to certain politicians to obtain compromising material. The comments led to the CEO, Alexander Nix's suspension in March after the recordings were released. Meanwhile, there's some skepticism surrounding the firm's decision to shut down, especially when it's subject to audit by Facebook as well as American and British authorities. Critics believe Cambridge Analytica and SCL Elections may be shutting operations to limit or restrict the ability of the authorities' investigations and also to get rid of evidence. Facebook, however, said it will continue with its own probe into the matter despite the firm's closure. The United States is reportedly considering executive action to restrict some Chinese companies' ability to sell telecommunications equipment within America. The Wall Street Journal reports that the move is likely aimed at Huawei and ZTE, which have been accused of spying on Americans through their products. The Pentagon has also stopped selling mobile phones and modems made by the two Chinese firms in stores on US military bases, citing potential security risks. Huawei responded by saying its products meet the highest standards of security, privacy and engineering in every country it sells to, including the United States. ZTE is yet to comment on the issue. Now, moving on to some brighter news for Chinese technology. A Chinese drone company has broken the Guinness World Record for the most drones flown simultaneously. Ehang put on the show over the weekend in the city of Xi'an, flying 1,374 illuminated drones spread over a kilometre for 13 minutes. It broke the previous record set by US chipmaker Intel, which flew 1,218 drones simultaneously at this year's Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. The Chinese drones formed various shapes in the night sky, which at times, however, were unsuccessful, but still provided a stunning display.
Good morning. Expect a chilly and breezy Thursday here in South Korea, while Tokyo and Beijing will have warmer temperatures in the mid-20s. Yesterday's rain helped to ease the dryness in the air, and we have better air quality today. But there has been a big drop in temperatures, so have a jacket handy today. Highs will also be a lot cooler. Seoul and Chuncheon will only get up to 15 degrees Celsius. Daegu and Gyeongju will make it to 20 degrees this afternoon. Expect another cool day tomorrow, but it's going to remain mostly sunny with warm temperature readings into the long 3-day weekend. With that, let's take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world. So South Korea will have a breezy Thursday under partly sunny skies, while some parts of North Korea will see lingering showers today. A dust storm has enveloped New Delhi on Wednesday, but today's rain should bring relief from the dusty conditions and hot weather there. Over in Wellington, a chilly start to the day, but expect clear skies and fine autumn day. Heading to North America, New York and Washington, D.C. will have summer-like weather conditions for a few days. And as for South America, Bogota will be showery into next week. Taking you to Europe, Stockholm's April was warmer than normal despite heavy snowfall, and expect a rainy Thursday. Lastly, to Africa, moderate temperatures are forecast for Cape Town as heavy rain clears up on Thursday. And that's all the weather update for now.
Well, that's where we're going to leave the news for now. Our next bulletin is coming up at noon Korea time. Until then, goodbye.
We've been waiting for this day.
Reporters and media personnel from Korea and abroad.
The day that the world has their eyes on. For the first time in 11 years, a chance at national reconciliation. The beautiful start to peace on the peninsula.
And they're exchanging off the top.
The first summit in Panmunjom.
Oh, holding hands as they walk. You said nearly 3,000 members.
Beyond the end of war to a path of peace.
With the historic 2018 Inter-Korean Summit lesson program, we'll be conducting the final
Peace. A new history has already begun. Arirang.
Naengmyeon, cold buckwheat noodles, are a summer treat. The three major types are the hamang naengmyeon, buckwheat noodles topped with sliced fish, the Pyongyang naengmyeon, buckwheat noodles in cold broth, and the Jinju naengmyeon, which is eaten with seafood broth and topped with meat, cabbage kimchi, and eggs.